Good afternoon. My name is Stanley Moss. I'm here to tell you my story of how the family partnership began and my experience in the state of New York. I first arrived in the state of New York, and my first experience with the Hudson Valley started back in the year 1975 and 76 when I stayed with my aunt and my uncle for one school year. I was treated really well, and the people were extremely nice to me. That influx of being kind and the fact that people were really close to me made an impression on me that lasted a lifetime. I've been through my ups and downs, and life carried on. That one year staying with my loving family, Charles Key, Marlene Key, which were my cousins. Life moved on. I went back to Georgia, graduated school. Ended up going to California, actually doing quite well for myself, but life wasn't the same. I had medical issues. They wouldn't go away. People didn't understand. So I ended up, after all these years, coming back and running into a very interesting program. A culmination of programs that are right here in this very building. Right now, we're sitting in the very building that helped me the most, made the biggest impression of my life. The name of this place is the Family Partnership Center. And I'd like to describe to you exactly what this place does and what it is. Through a series of interviews with the directors of over 20 programs, social programs for inner city families, individuals that help people reconstruct their lives and move forward with their families, their children in education, housing, health, dentistry, everything you could possibly imagine to get their families back on their feet. I know because I use these services. In 1992, after not being able to hold down positive work throughout my entire life, after coming back, I could only hold down what I knew I could do under the table work, temporary. I became a master painter because I was good at it. Under the table, doing painting houses, painting everything, industrial, residential, and commercial painting. People would hire me. I would last until the medical problem that I had would rear its ugly head. That medical problem was epilepsy. Finally diagnosed after I had returned to the state of New York, going through ridicule, criticism, and even bullying. Nothing would solve the problem in the state of Georgia. So I returned back to the state of New York, the one place where I was treated kindly. After the loss of my mother, I decided not to be a burden on my family. They loved me, they cared for me, but I had to take care of the problem itself. So I struck out on my own. So in 1992, finally, not wanting to be a burden to my family anymore, I went to the one place where people could care for me, but I had to take on the problem head on. Coming back to New York, the city of Poughkeepsie, where I once experienced, just on a shopping trip by my Aunt Marlene, window shopping of all things. The people were so kind to me, it made an impression on me as a 14-year-old child. But I knew, because I did my research, that the United Way had an epileptic foundation. I knew if I was going to receive help, I was going to find it there. I would get the diagnosis I need, the medical treatment I need, the disability that my mother had sought after, but never got approved. So, determined, I was going to get this issue solved. And I did. But while good things happen, also bad things happen to good people. I started volunteering in my spare time as I applied for social services, waiting on my disability to come through. It was eventually approved. But in my spare time, I could not work. I volunteered. I volunteered at a local place called the Lunchbox, where they fed the homeless. And from that experience, I met a young man. His name was John Flowers. He was a prominent man, a very well-respected man from a very well-respected family. He believed in social activities, keeping busy, doing the best you can, helping others help themselves. I admired that. It reminded me of my own family. They always helped others. In fact, 3 of my cousins were ministers and preachers and pastors. I could not give up hope. I was determined to drive and drive and drive. And then on a blessed day in 1996, I was blessed with a child. His name was Justin. And I was so thrilled to be able to have a child. I was making plans. I wanted to go back home. And I wanted to introduce my new son. I wanted to introduce him to my brother, my cousins, my sister-in-law. And tragedy struck. There was a horrendous event that took place in the state of Georgia. I lost my only brother, my only niece, and my only nephew to an in-home invasion. They were all brutally murdered in their own home as they come in from school. My family had no knowledge of where I'd went. They had no knowledge that I was in the state of New York. I went out to handle this problem on my own where they would not worry. So my brother, my niece, and nephew had never met my son. It was almost like it was meant to be. And I was sunk into depression. A massive depression set in. I was not the same person no longer. My only brother gone. My niece and nephew gone. Yes, I did go to the funeral. My cousin found me. He made sure I went to the funeral. But I did have to return to the state of New York for I had a family. I had a son to look after. But John Flowers, not giving up hope on me, introduced me to the social programs in which we sit now, the auditorium you see behind me. On this very stage, I spoke twice. He pulled me up out of the depression that I sunk into. Yeah, it was bad. I blackened out the windows in my small one-room apartment. Me and my son's mother, we split up. I started drinking, although I had a vagus nerve plant to control the seizures. I was having 90 seizures per month in clusters. They were coming. I was hospitalized days and weeks at a time. I was shipped down to Manhattan, Columbia Presbyterian, in fact. The depression was bringing on sleepless nights. The sleepless nights was bringing on seizures. They were uncontrolled. John Flowers was there for me. He wouldn't let go. Stan, you have to do something. You have to do something. Turn that frown upside down, he said. Walk with me. I did his radio show several times. WHVW, 95, 9:50 a.m. Right here in the city of Poughkeepsie. It brought me from a dark place. Mental health. I put myself into mental health. Had counselors. I took on programs and started feeling better. He said, Stan, you got to focus on something. So I focused on the homeless. I talked to people about homelessness and how it affects people. It takes you further down a road. It makes you see things in a different light. People helping people help themselves, I thought. It went further than that. Then I started getting involved with the hungry and feeding the hungry and working in the soup kitchen and clothes closets. My skills as a painter, I started volunteering in a building. This very building that we sit in now was once a school, Our Lady of Lourdes. It is a huge school that was dormant, sat dormant for quite a while. And then they started filling up this school with all sorts of social programs. The lunchbox moved into here. And then they added the clothes closet. Then they added dentistry, medical. There's over 20 programs in here just for the inner city, for volunteers. It is amazing what can be done if one tries, when people pull together to help one another. John Flowers asked me, what would interest you? What is your strongest point? What hurts you the most? And I answered to him. I thought about it for a couple of days. I ran across him in the streets one day. And I told him, I said, what hurts me the most is the fact that not only is my family gone, John, but the children, it's the way it happened. They was coming home from school, and they never finished their education. They never finished even starting to live their life. That hurt me the most. My life is done. Over half of my life is done. But they never finished their education. They never had a chance at life. This is what hurt me the most. He says, that's what you have to do. That is what you have to focus on. He says, education, that is the key to where you have to succeed. That is your biggest helping point. And I said, you're right. So I started volunteering at after-school programs. In the year 2001, an opportunity came up for me to move to Arizona, Sierra Vista, to be in fact. It's just about 35 miles north of the Mexican border. I was with my cousin there. I had a baby girl. Her name is Stephanie Moss. Stephanie Deanne Moss. She's named after my brother and also my niece. I am proud to say, as of this day, with the influx of education and being there and following her education very close with the after-school programs, Stephanie Moss just started high school this year. It is now 2015. She is actually a 7-time high honor roll student, and she is a 2-time national honor roll recipient. And she has a very bright future. I myself have been the chairman of the Parental Involvement Committee for 7 years, the chairman of the Junior Volunteer Committee, which is high school and middle school students, and the chairman of the Partners in the Park program, which is contracted on a year-by-year basis with the city of Poughkeepsie to keep the parks clean and give credits to the high school and parents. Incentives during the summer. These programs have incentive programs that run throughout the summer to keep the children off the streets and also safe and involved in progressive programs. I'm not patting myself on the back, but helping people help themselves is a positive influx. A year before my best friend's passing, Mr. John Flowers and I had a conversation, and we wanted to do something together. Our conversation consisted of, we need to do something together. And he says, well, what would you like to do? What's touched you the most? I said, well, my mom has touched me the most, obviously. She raised me before there was an epileptic foundation started in 1970. She's put up with me throughout her entire life. But if I could reach out and help others, I would do a documentary on the Family Partnership Center and how it touches other people. Just maybe it could help another community. Or even if it just helped one person, it would be worth it. And he told me, Stan, he says, you have something to say, so you need to be heard. And I said, thank you. I appreciate that. Coming from you, that is truly an honor to me. That is the highest form of respect that I can think of. He says, you've been down, you've been hurt. He says, but you carry a smile. He says, that smile is something most people lose. He says, you're strong. He says, the Lord is inside of you, and he won't let go of you. You still think about your family. He says, even though you feel that you should have been there and you could have changed things, you still carry that smile because the Lord won't let go of you. And you still want to produce something for other people. I ended up talking to John Flowers about doing a documentary on the Family Partnership Center here at 29 Hamilton Street in the city of Poughkeepsie, right in the heart of the most troubled city around. It is the catalyst for change and help for those who need it most, the families who are hurting the most. It has everything that an inner city family could need when despair and poverty strike at its worst. I ended up being a radio show host the same week that I lost my friend. It is by coincidence, not by fate. He told me I needed to be heard before this happened. John Flowers is actually the creator of the only Father's Day parade held in this country. It is amazing what one man can do. It is awesome what an entire center can do. But please do not forget that John Flowers was a very instrumental person that started this whole thing. He is one of the founders of the Family Partnership, along with the CEO, and thanks to Mr. Brian Doyle and the help of Mr. Rydell, and with tribute to the Honorable late Mr. John Flowers, my mentor, my friend. I will truly miss you, and this documentary is dedicated to you and your family and all that you've done for the city of Poughkeepsie. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for being there. You have saved a lost person. Now it is my turn to try to help someone, to hold a hand out to my neighbors. And I hope that you enjoy this documentary as we interview each director one by one, each one that would like to participate in the interviews that's going to be held, all by volunteers. They will receive credits for helping me. Let no restraints hold you back from helping yourself. I hope you understand this is meant to help other people, and I hope it helps you help yourself. Please enjoy the documentaries. They're posted on YouTube. You can listen to my show. They're broadcasted also on YouTube. For discussions, all directors, all volunteers will be invited to be on my radio show at WHVW every Saturday morning. And that's WHVW, 9:50 a.m. The show is from 6 to 8 a.m. My Facebook is Stanley K. Moss. If you would like to discuss this any further, please look it up on Facebook. It's public. Just hit like, request a friendship. You will be received in kind. You can follow it, we can discuss it, and you can post on it. Just remember, we help those who help themselves. Please enjoy the documentary. But right now, I have to go help somebody else in need. Thank you for listening to me, and God bless you. And may your day be blessed as well.